Welcome, folks. It's Supermoto Steve here. My cousin and riding buddy, Misdemeanor Mike, and I are setting out on another DRZ adventure to remember. Today is a big day. It's the first stop on our Iron Horse Ghost Town tour, and we're riding our trusty Deezers to an amazing ghost town called North Bloomfield, formerly known as Humbug. But this once booming gold mining town in Northern California has a dark secret. This little mining town deep in the Sierra foothills is the site of the largest environmental disaster in American history, the Malakoff Diggins. We'll see the damage done by the giant water cannons local miners used, and then see the cannons themselves when we get into Humbug. We'll walk around the well-preserved buildings in this abandoned mining town and see plenty of historical artifacts, giving us a real glimpse into what life was like back then. Today's adventure is going to be around 300 miles round trip. We're gonna ride some great twisties, endure some boring stretches of highway, see some cool bridges, I love bridges, and bounce over dusty fire roads to reach our destination, North Bloomfield, California. The weatherman says no rain until tomorrow, but it's looking pretty gloomy. So, grab your rain gear, buckle up your helmets, and get ready for another DRZ adventure. We left Napa and headed up Highway 121, known as Monticello Road by the locals, towards Lake Berryessa. This is an amazing motorcycle road stacked with great curves and fantastic views of the surrounding mountains and valleys. If you're into the twisties, this road should be on your must-do list. Traffic nowadays can be pretty brutal, but if you hit Monticello on a weekday and miss the commute times, it's an exciting ride. We hit a little rain drizzle and started to wonder if we should turn back now. Dang it! We aren't even out of Napa County, and we're already getting wet. But the weatherman said it was just supposed to be overcast. So onward we go. When we reached Lake Berryessa, we stopped just below the Monticello Dam for a quick rest and a couple of photos before continuing on Highway 128 towards Winters. Our trusty DRZs only hold 2.5 gallons of gas, so we never pass a gas station. After making a quick stop for fuel in Winters, we headed on towards Woodland on Highway 113. The next hour and a half or so is a pretty boring stretch of highway, and it's difficult to keep your speed down. Except for a few farms, there isn't much of interest to see. And this, folks, is where the DRZs are really the weakest. Long, high-speed stretches on a DRZ just plain suck. The exhaust is super loud when it's wound out and makes bike-to-bike communication impossible. The wind at speed blows the bikes around a lot, making them feel sketchy. Passing semis and the changing air currents are not exactly what I would call fun. The resulting death grip on the controls and constant vibration and wind makes this section of this trip not so much fun. After the first hour on this road, we were definitely getting antsy for some curves and something more scenic. Finally, we made it to Highway 20 and started heading east towards Grass Valley. This is where things got really interesting. The scenery took a dramatic change, and the road started to twist and wind through the mountains. Once we reached Nevada City, we veered off onto North Bloomfield Road. This is where things got really exciting. Miles of pure dirt road adventure lie ahead. Not far from North Bloomfield is the Edwards Crossing Bridge. Built in the late 1800s, it's a historical landmark and one of the only remaining wooden bridges of its kind in Nevada County. The bridge was once a vital necessity to the residents of Humbug, but now it's used as a recreation area for hikers, bikers, and sightseers alike. The bridge is constructed with light steel that supports a wooden roadway over the South Yuba River. It's a really interesting location, definitely worth a photo stop if you're ever in the area. We ended up hanging out here for a good half hour, soaking in the sights and listening to the sounds of the raging water below us. The rest of the way from the Edwards Crossing Bridge to Humbug is on some pretty rough dirt road. I wouldn't recommend it for low-to-the-ground cars. And during rainy times, I'd probably avoid this road altogether. But the DRZs are in their element here and well-suited for the ride ahead. We're almost there. On the outskirts of New Bloomfield lies Malakoff Diggins. The Diggins is the very reason for the existence of the town of New Bloomfield. This was the location of the largest hydraulic mining area of the California Gold Rush, and still stands today, giving us an eerie glimpse into what life was like in the unregulated Old West. Everywhere we looked, there was still evidence of the destruction caused by the giant hydraulic water cannons. The entire valley was once a huge mountain, but now it just looks like an eerie valley moonscape. Malakoff Diggins is the site of the biggest environmental disaster in American history. In 1866, miners began using powerful water cannons to extract gold from the hillsides. This caused a massive wave of environmental destruction all the way to the San Francisco Bay as the muddy waters made their way down from the foothills. This disaster prompted Congress to pass the 1872 Mining Act, forever outlawing hydraulic mining. However, the miners here at the Malakoff Diggins continued to use their water cannons until a federal injunction was issued in 1884. The injunction led to a dramatic decline in population and eventually resulted in the abandonment of North Bloomfield. As we ventured further along the road from the Diggins, we stumbled upon a weathered barn that, despite its condition, remained standing. There was also a mysterious structure beside it that had long ago surrendered to the ravages of time and the elements. Being that this was the first ruins along the way, we had to stop and shoot a few pics. But not for long. We're eager to explore the renowned ghost town that lie ahead. On the outskirts of town, you'll find a historic one-room schoolhouse in surprisingly good condition. The Sandy Flat Schoolhouse, built in 1885, has been restored and serves as a historical attraction for visitors during the tourist season. But on our visit today, it's locked and the windows have been boarded up. Just across the way from the schoolhouse lies the North Bloomfield Cemetery, where many of the original settlers and miners were buried. Their graves are mostly marked by wooden headstones or simple metal crosses. It's a somber reminder of how hard life must have been back then for these early pioneers. Today, the cemetery is a peaceful but spooky place to visit. And believe it or not, you can still request to be buried here. At last, we finally made it to the town itself. It's amazing how much of it still remains intact. Naturally, we parked in front of the King's Saloon, an iconic landmark of the area. Built in 1876, it was once one of the most popular hangout spots in town, frequented by miners and other locals alike. Nowadays, it sits abandoned and locked up. If only the walls could talk. The 20 or so remaining buildings in New Bloomfield are a fascinating look into the past. Some of the original structures that can still be seen include the 1911 jailhouse, which now serves as a museum, a saloon-turned-post office constructed in 1882, an old blacksmith shop that is now home to some local artisans, and several other small businesses that once served the residents and visitors of this historic town. The overall appearance and atmosphere of New Bloomfield is best described as authentic old-world charm. Abandoned buildings give it a ghostly vibe that is eerily contrasted by the perfectly preserved architecture. This hidden town has somehow managed to retain much of its original character, while the rest of the world moved on. It's truly like stepping into a time machine and taking a ride back in time. There are bare stone foundations, some unknown wooden structures, and numerous artifacts scattered all around the forested area. And along this quiet setting sits a collection of buildings that appear just as they did 100 years ago. Close by the blacksmith, and probably for good reason, sat the Humbug fire station. The fire truck still sits parked inside, where it has sat ready for over 100 years. It's evident that the residents here took fire safety seriously. There were even fire hydrants installed along the dirt road through town. The town fire bell and its tower continue to serve to this day. Fortunately, it's only been ghosts and mischievous visitors ringing the bell. At the opposite end of town sits a short row of houses, all on one side of the street. They're all in amazing condition, and we honestly couldn't tell if they were occupied or not. Upon further inspection, we realized that at least most of them were vacant. But the condition of these houses was incredible. It looks like someone could move in tomorrow. The livery stables sit in the middle of town. Visible in the windows are the hoists that were once used to lift hay onto and off of wagons. Peeking inside, I could see a wagon sitting ready, waiting for a load of hay. We spent a good part of the day exploring North Bloomfield and the surrounding area. The town was once a bustling center for gold miners, and we could feel the history of the gold rush era in the air. Everywhere we looked, the remnants of the town's once thriving community surrounded us. The giant monitor water cannons that were used to extract gold from the nearby hills and subsequently led to the town's prosperity sit proudly in testament at the edge of town. While just up the road, the scars on the earth caused by those water cannons also still remain. Overall, visiting this hidden town was truly a unique experience. For those looking to explore the remnants of California's gold rush era, North Bloomfield is definitely worth a visit. With its old world charm and fascinating history, it's rich with stories that are just waiting to be explored. We spent way more time than we should have exploring the ruins here. As the sun began to set over the hills, our thoughts turned towards the 150-mile journey home ahead of us. And even though the weather has been kind to us all day, it's looking more and more threatening as every minute ticks by. Worse yet, now the weatherman is now talking about how it's supposed to rain in the next hour or so. Crap. This is the hard part of motorcycling. This is what separates weekend jockeys versus adventure bikers. Knowing you're going to be wet and cold. Knowing it's going to be that way for hours. Knowing it's going to be a miserable ride home, and doing it anyway. We knew that it would be a race against the storm to get back home safely. And boy, were we right. We chose to ride the freeway home to pick up the pace in an attempt to beat the storm. We made it to Auburn and needed to stop for food and fuel. We scarfed some burgers at BK and jumped back on the bikes. Wide open throttle, baby, let's do this. We hauled butt through Sacramento on Interstate 80 with the storm hot on our tails. You could see it closing in behind us, and now alarmingly in front of us too. A giant wall of black wet and cold misery waited ahead of us. We hit Dixon and unfortunately had to stop one more time for gas. Damn DRZs. The storm was on us now. The sprinkles were starting. I didn't have a waterproof door on my GoPro, so I decided to put it in the bag. End of footage. We hope you enjoyed our adventure to North Bloomfield, also known as Humbug. It was truly an adventure of a lifetime. If you're looking for a thrilling ride full of history, exploration, and some good old-fashioned fun, be sure to add this ghost town to your bucket list. Now, if you want to see more adventures like this, it's time to hit the like and subscribe button. Thanks for watching. See you on the next adventure.